Okay, class 9, let's continue our chapter number 1. Okay, in today's video, we'll discuss about the process of photosynthesis and food chain and ecosystem, right? So in this video today, we'll learn about how the energy flows from producer to consumer, and from that consumer to secondary consumer, right? Okay, let's start. Radiates energy in all directions in the form of light and heat rays. The source of this energy is the thermonuclear reactions taking place in the sun. However, of the total energy radiated from the sun, the earth receives less than 2 billion part of the total. On an average, the earth receives about 2 gram calorie of energy per square centimeter per minute. The amount is equivalent to 500 million tons of coal. The plant takes the energy of the sun to synthesize their food through photosynthesis. So, what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process in which the green plants they make their own food with the help of sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, which is present in atmosphere, right? Okay. Next is photosynthetic plants can thus meet their energy requirement themselves. Therefore, they call primary producers or autotrophs. So, autotrophs means it is that those which make their own food, right? So, that's your autotrophs or producers. Most of the animals, on the other hand, have to depend upon either plants or other animals for their energy supply. So, they were known as consumer or heterotrophs. So, they are what? They cannot make their own food. They directly, indirectly depend on other living creatures, or dead or decaying matters, right? So, the animals which consume plant material to meet their energy requirement are called primary consumer. Producer, which can make their own food. Consumer, which cannot make their food but directly, indirectly depends on other creatures or dead or decaying matter, or herbivorous, right? Okay, now the animals consuming herbivorous plants to obtain energy are called secondary consumer, that is carnivores. In the biosphere, energy is transferred from one organism to the other in the form of food, and this chain is known as food chain. Now look at the picture here. This plant is producer because this is making its own food, and this grass also making own food with the help of this sunlight and earth's or atmospheric air, that is carbon dioxide, right? And this grass and this producer is consumed by this small insect, and this small insect is consumed by this frog, and this frog is eaten by or consumed by this snake, and finally the snake is eaten by this eagle. This creature dies, then it will mix with the soil and will become the food for decomposer, right? Decomposers like bacteria, fungi, and some insects that help converting these dead and decaying organic or inorganic substances into useful plant nutrients, right? So that decomposers also help, means that they help in decomposing organic matter to humus, and humus, that is very, very important, essential for plant life. Not only that, decomposers also help in maintaining ecosystem. Now, what is ecosystem? Ecosystem means It's a biological community of interacting organism and their physical with their physical environment. So that is ecosystem. So decomposers also help in balancing ecosystem. Okay, class 9, we just completed our first chapter. Now let's move to chapter number 4, page number 43, and the chapter name is Earth Structure. In this Earth structure, we'll talk about the different layers of the Earth, crust, mantle, and core. And we'll read about the meaning of these layers of the Earth and their extent and compositions, right? So let's start the chapter number 4, Earth Structure. Here we go. Earth structure. Earth's inside structure is quite different to its hard, crusty shell. We sometimes get a glimpse of Earth's interior through the action of active volcanoes. Earth's rocky crust is by no means stationary, and we regularly see evidence of crust movement in the form of earthquakes. Right? So, to do the study of Earth's inside, to see Earth's interior part is quite difficult. Right? And it's very hard because the Earth's crust is very hard, very crusty, and we cannot see the Earth's interior, and we sometimes get a glimpse of its interior through the action of volcanoes, right? And sometimes we get to know about the Earth's interior by the when there is Earth's crust movement in the form of earthquakes, right, or plate tectonic movements. Now next we have plate tectonics provide a framework for interpreting the composition, structure, and internal processes of Earth on the global scale. Most of what we know about the interior of the Earth comes from the study of seismic waves from earthquakes. When an earthquake occurs, the seismic waves spread out in all directions through the Earth's interior. So most of we come to know about the Earth's interior by the seismic waves which comes out from the earthquakes, right? So earthquakes occurs an earthquake occurs the seismic waves, right? So that is known as what, which spread out in all directions through the Earth's interior. From that we come to know about the Earth's interior, right? These waves contain vital information about the internal structure of the Earth. As seismic waves pass through the Earth, they are refracted or bent like the light rays bend when they pass through a glass prism. See the movements of plates. We call it plate tectonics. Now see how they keep on moving. These plates keep on moving, right? But we do not feel that the movement of the plates. See the movements. Now see how two plates, they collide with each other. See the two plates colliding, and an energy is released in that time, right? So when two plates collide with each other, form of a kind of energy release, we called it earthquake. That energy is earthquake. So that energy and the waves which comes out from that movement, plate tectonic movements, and when two plates collide with each other, that energy produced in that time gives a vital information about the internal of the Earth, interior of the Earth, right? So as seismic waves pass through the Earth, they are refracted, right? So they are refracted or bent like rays of light bend when they pass through a glass prism. Now see this figure here. This is a glass prism, and a light is coming, is coming from this direction, and it is refracted, bent in several this rays of light. Same like that, the earth seismic waves, when it generates, right, it passes through the earth and they are refracted or bent like the rays of light bent when they pass through the glass prism. Now come to the different layers of the earth. First we have the core, then mantle and crust. Each layer has its own chemical composition and properties. Number one, the core. The core is composed of two layers, the inner and outer cores. The entire core is about 7,000 kilometer in diameter. In general, the temperature of the core ranges between 4,000 degrees Celsius to 6,000 degrees Celsius. Now see here, this is the section of the layer of the earth. Now the second layer is the mantle. The mantle is almost 29,000 kilometer thick and comprises of how much volume? Earth's volume. It's a 83% of Earth's volume. So it is composed of several different layers. The top layer, that is the upper mantle, that is 100 to 200 kilometers below Earth's surface, and it's known as asthenosphere. So here, this is the layer, and this is a part of mantle, and it is the topmost and uppermost layer of the mantle, right? So the thickness is 100 to 200 kilometer below the surface, 100 to 200 kilometer thickness. So this is asthenosphere, and it's a part of mantle. Scientific studies suggest that the layer has physical properties that are different from the rest of the upper mantle, and the rocks, this upper portion of the mantle are more and more rigid and brittle because of cooler temperatures and lower pressures found there. So the rocks which are found in this asthenosphere is they are more brittle and rigid. So more brittle and rigid means very strong, but if little stress is given, that will be broken, right? So that is because of cooler temperatures and lower pressures exit there, right? Now below the upper mantle is a lower mantle that extends from 670 to 2900 kilometers below the Earth's surface. So this is your below mantle, low mantle, we can say low mantle, and below this upper mantle we have low mantle, which extends from 670 to 2900 kilometers below the Earth's surface. This layer is hot and plastic. The higher pressure in this layer causes the formation of minerals that are different from those of the upper mantle. So the minerals found in this low mantle they are different from the minerals found in upper mantle, right? Now the lithosphere is a layer that includes the crust and uppermost portion of mantle. Now this lithosphere is about 100 kilometers and has the ability to glide over the rest of upper mantle. Because of increasing temperature and pressure, deeper portion of the lithosphere capable of plastic flow over geologic time. So this lithosphere, that means the hard rocks, they because of increasing temperature, pressure, deeper portion of the lithosphere, they are capable of plastic flow, right? Over flow over the geologic time, right? And this layer has the ability to glide over the rest of the upper mantle. So this upper part is your lithosphere. So this lithosphere has ability to glide over this mantle. So this lithosphere is also the zone of what? Mountain building process, earthquakes, volcanoes, and continental drift, right? So this lithosphere experiences all the geological phenomena and the process like earthquakes, tectonic plates, movements, continental drifts, mountain buildings, volcanoes, etc. Now, the next one is the crust. The crust is the uppermost part of the lithosphere, consists of crust. It is the topmost part, uppermost part, and solid rocks forms the crust. Two types of crust are there. One is oceanic crust, and the next is continental crust. So, ocean crust is thin and measures between 5 to 10 kilometers thick, and it is composed of basalt and has a density of about 3.0 gram per cubic centimeter. This much for today, children. We'll continue with the same chapter in the next video. Till then, bye bye.